Welcome to Two Dumb White Guys, episode 2, or as I like to call it, this asinine thing that I am doing instead of working on my final. My name is Paul Davidson.
And I am Scott Norman.
So, Mr. Norman, what is our topic for today?
So we have a little bit of background on how we have gotten some topic ideas.
We've gotten minorly popular.
Yeah, we have amongst bored students who don't want to do our homework but will happily listen to everything else. We have gotten a bunch of contributions, starting with from a freshman who shall not be specifically named, a suggestion box. She created a shoebox with the incorrectly spelled suggestion box
but
label
that's appropriate
on the side.
For Two Dumb White Guys.
It is, so it fits well. So we have our suggestion box, and we have gotten, you can't see it, you can hear the paper, but there's a massive pile of suggestions that we have received, ranging from the legitimate what happened to the Native Americans, spelled that way, and questions about how we handle bullying.
The Native Americans one is an interesting one. I kind of want to... there's a lot of different ways that you can go with that one.
I think that will probably have to be one we line up with. We have political parties and how they've divided America. And then we have things such as, quote, your opinion on young stars such as music, movie, and YouTubers, also the internet. So we have a wide range.
Pretty broad.
Yeah, we have a wide range. We had one student who just put in requests for things, like he thought that we were Santa, and so he asked for a weightlifting set. We have someone else who is in love with a stapler, and so he...
oh, yes, Mr. Norman Stapler. He promised that he would subscribe to us if we would do that. So Mr. Norman Stapler is a thing of beauty, and it is... amazing.
It is glorious. By the way,
it can staple.
Its name is Frank.
Its name is Frank. I forgot its name was Frank.
Its name is Frank.
It is our official. In fact, I need to get a picture of Frank, and I will replace that as our album art. Frank the Stapler is
Frank the Stapler
is the mascot of Two Dumb White Guys.
Because we like to get to the point. Sorry, that was an attempt. That was an attempt. All right, so our real topic for the day is one that we received a suggestion for, and that is internet debates.
Pointless internet debates.
Yes, pointless. No, I mean, these are I'm going to take the side that these are very important. I don't really know why, but I am.
Oh, this is our chance to become Reddit. Anyway, so what is our first debate?
First off, we have the age-old question. Is water wet?
Water can be wet.
And here's the interesting thing with this one. We want you to fight us on this because come at us. Water is wet.
Yeah, we both agree that water is wet, but we have different reasons why. Now, technically, water isn't wet. I did read research, but I do believe there is a way that water can be wet.
And I believe the research is faulty, and water is wet all the time.
Hey,
unless...
take it up with the Guardian, on the UK's Guardian.
United Kingdom, we left them for a reason.
They put E's at the end of words for random...
Yeah.
They throw a random U in.
Yeah, aluminium...
Color.
Aluminum. Sorry if I just broke the mic with that.
Yeah, it'll be fine. But no, what's your reasoning on why water can be wet?
All right, so internet and students come at me, but here's the reasoning. To be wet is something that is surrounded by or covered in a liquid, right? So if I am wet, that means that I have liquid molecules on me. Well, unless you singularly pull out an individual molecule of water without any other H2O molecules next to it, it is covered in H2O molecules. It is submersed in them, and therefore, the moment that water is surrounded by other water, it is wet.
And I came at this from an English teacher perspective. The reason why water is wet is because wet is an adjective. Water is a noun, and all adjectives can describe all nouns.
Meaning that water could also be fluffy.
It can be. I would like to swim through some fluffy... I actually know that would be bad, because it would be really foamy, and foam is kind of nasty.
Yeah, it means you're like in scum water.
Yeah.
If you're in fluffy water,
I don't
it's probably
want to be
like industrial waste.
And that's an excellent example of how you can use language and bend it and become descriptive with it to help establish your thing you're trying to describe. In fact, I was going to mention this. I forgot to say that yesterday I had the epiphany how I was going to start off the podcast. I was going to talk about your awesome mustache that you have, because this is theater of the mind, and now all of the students are thinking that you have a mustache, or they're at least imagining what a mustache on Mr. Norman would look like.
Did they not know I have a mustache?
No, they don't.
Can no one see it?
No one can see it except me.
I thought it was
has
very
a nice
obvious.
handlebar.
Yes.
And of course, I'm wearing a bunch of variety of different hats. Right now, I'm wearing an Abe Lincoln hat.
Yeah.
And pretty soon, I'll just be putting on different other classes, like a sombrero. I will put on the sombrero.
That's impressive. I'm impressed that you
now.
are currently balancing the sombrero on top of the Lincoln hat. That is impressive.
Hey,
where do you store these?
Well, I store them in my TARDIS.
Okay. All right.
So we've gotten off track. We've gone into another dimension like Doctor Who. What's our next argument?
All right. So we agreed on that one. We do not agree on our next argument, and that is who would win, shout out 7th Hour, between a silverback gorilla and a grizzly bear.
The answer's easy, and it's already been proven.
And your answer is?
And this is according to top scientist in the movie Rampage, which is the giant monkey movie starring The Rock. The Rock, of course, is playing a apologist, or whatever they called him.
An apologist?
Or, I don't know. It's you're actually like thinking that The Rock is a scientific person. Anyway, he said that the grizzly is the apex predator, and there's no way that a gorilla should be able to take down a grizzly, yet this ape, who has genetically modified DNA, keep that in mind,
yes,
was able to kill this grizzly. So according to The Rock, our top scientist, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the grizzly would take down the ape. And also The Rock is an expert in fighting, so
it is
boom,
true.
Boom, 2 points, Davidson.
Here's the problem. I'm about to step back and curry. So the thing is, you see, that The Rock, while very, very solid in his analysis, but anyway, so is imaginary. But I have personally witnessed, in the zoo, of course, I have personally witnessed the apex predator, of course, the gorilla. I don't know if he's an ape, but whatever.
So wait, you witnessed a gorilla take on a grizzly? What zoo was this?
No, excuse me. I witnessed a gorilla.
What zoo has animal fights?
I witnessed a gorilla's speed in action. So I was at the zoo, right? And a gentleman came up next to me and attempted to draw the gorilla's attention. He pounded his chest like a gorilla would. And the gorilla saw him, and very literally, within 0.2 seconds, that gorilla had picked up a full-size tire and hurled it at us, where it ricocheted off the wall with incredible force that sounded like a gunshot.
Dang.
And this all took place within seconds. This gorilla was fast. And then he sprinted up a hill and picked his nose. But point being that the moves on these gorillas are incredible, and they're very smart creatures. He knew right where he was targeting with that tire. So what we assume in this debate, or what you are assuming, and of course Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was assuming, is that this gorilla is unarmed. But
True.
I think that this gorilla would be smart enough to use rocks and other weapons that it could find around it and actually hurl them at Mr. Apex Predator from a distance. And if the bear were to get close enough, this gorilla could duck and weave. Have you seen those things move?
But with that said, the gorilla has to find weapons. The bear just naturally has them.
I mean, the gorilla's got some guns.
I will wait for a pause. Anyway.
That was a pause joke, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, so yes.
So I'm standing by it. The gorilla would win this because before the grizzly knew what hit him, he would get the 1-2 in the snout, and that guy would be up on his neck choking him out till he tapped.
And the reason why I am correct is because it makes me in the right with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It gives me something to talk about with him when I finally do meet him and be like, hey, Team Grizzly all the way. Although he is friends with a gorilla, he has to admit that a gorilla cannot take down a grizzly.
Well, we'll see when we interview Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson next week. No, I'm kidding. We don't have that kind of star power. But Something that I do think is interesting is how deep into this people will get. I have very literally read pages and pages and pages of silverback gorilla versus grizzly. If you search it, you can find very literally hundreds to thousands of results of people spending hours debating this topic. But for some reason, we can't show up to vote. But anyway, just an interesting thing that I have noticed.
And you know what? If it was like that, where we have the back and forth and we just explore and poke and play at these ideas, I wouldn't mind having these arguments that occur pop up in class every once in a while. But the biggest problem that I always see with these is that they start off friendly and they quickly devolve into just tribalism. Like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. No, I'm right, you're wrong. And no willingness to explore or play with the other side of the argument.
Yeah, and that's something that I've noticed that actually does kind of parallel our political system, is we have seen, as of late, kind of the shift into a mentality of winners and losers instead of a group collaborative effort. And this is something that you see whether it is whether water is wet or which animal would win in the rivalry within a classroom or just in a conversation, that we are moving at this point, and I really see it amongst the students, into a point where every conversation has to walk away with a winner and a loser instead of people jointly seeking something that they are curious about. Have you witnessed that in your classroom as well?
Yes, big time. I've witnessed it in my class. In fact, the other day, just the other day, we had the "is water wet" argument in my first hour class, and that's how it ended, was a line drawn in the sand, "I'm right, you're wrong" type of approach before the bell rang, and everybody left, thankfully. So it escalated to that point at a good time, because the conversation was going to be over no matter what as soon as that bell rang. But if not, it would have been something that just I would have had to put the kermuffin on, because it would just turned into a shouting match.
I enjoy the phrase "to put the kermuffin on something." So the issue, I think, is just whether we approach debates, whether it is nonsense debates or real debates, as something that we need to find collective truth on, or something that we need to achieve victory in. I think that we have the perfect, another perfect debate as far as collective rivalry goes.
Before we move on to that one,
okay.
I do have a real thing to talk about. I'm going to take off my podcaster hat and put on my 10-gallon teacher talking about teachers cowboy hat. It's now firmly on my head. It's
also impressive that your 10-gallon hat has a literal tank with 10 gallons in it.
And I bedazzled it.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you get that much Fanta?
Well, you got to understand that The Rock likes Fanta.
Oh, gosh.
And so I just went and bought as much Fanta as possible to encourage him to come on our podcast.
We're trying to lure you.
Once again.
Dwayne.
Mr.
Dwayne.
What I was talking about is that I'm currently taking my master's class, and both me and you went to college and whatnot. And
I did?
I remember going, when we would have these conversations, it wouldn't necessarily turn into "I'm right, you're wrong" type of a conversation. Eventually, we would find the middle ground. Mm-hmm. And so, if at the higher levels, like at this post-secondary and the postgraduate level, we're able to have these conversations, what do we need to do as high school teachers to help foster this type of conversation? What's the difference between college and high school and people being able to have these conversations?
I think one of the biggest things we have to kind of look at, and you guys feel free to input your ideas here in that comment section below. I'm pointing. You can't see me, but I'm pointing. Trust me.
That was another thing I was going to ask our audience, but keep going.
So the big thing that I think is a lot of students feel like, and I kind of felt this as a student, that they're just here almost like in prison, right? They're forced to be here. They don't want to have the conversations that we're having. And so even when there's something that genuinely draws interest, it almost is like a point of rebellion. Like, man, I can't have this conversation. And so the only way that it gets fun is if you get to yell at somebody and take something out. But I also see that we really struggle with finding things that are of use.
So maybe it's just how engaging the conversation topic is, and then on top of that, making sure it's a conversation topic that isn't just a yes or no answer.
Yeah, and I'm gonna brag on my freshmen a little bit here. So I'm bragging on y'all. I have this year a group of freshmen who, as we talked through the Great Depression, really have turned it into a conversation. So shout out to whoever put in the suggestion box, Farm Depression. So here's your shout out, Farm Depression. But
Farm depression, is that all the suggestion said was farm depression?
Actually, the exact quote was Farm Depression equals sad rednecks.
Okay.
So whoever put that in our suggestion box, there you go. But they have had some great conversations about things like credit. And we didn't argue about it per se, but we discussed and had a lot of students who were like, yeah, I would totally use credit. And then we talked through all of the pitfalls that can happen when you make that your primary form of exchange. And this is freshmen. They haven't had an economics course. They're in relatively low-level mathematics courses. But because it is something that is genuinely interesting, everybody, hopefully, at some point, is going to deal with money. And if you don't, you're still dealing with money. It's just the lack thereof. But because that conversation was something that they could see happening in their lives instead of just being
a theoretical type of thing.
Yeah, instead of just pick a side, who's the gorilla, who's the grizzly, it's something where they realize if they achieve what is actually true, it's going to help them. And it will help them monetarily, which is always a fun way to help.
And that helps them get to the next step in which they start, instead of yelling gorilla or grizzly, they start thinking, what if the gorilla had grizzly paws? And then we'd all be doomed.
The real thing that would be bad is if the gorilla had grizzly paws and the serum from Planet of the Apes.
Oh yeah, we would be done. Yeah, we would be done.
Except would he still have opposable thumbs? Because actually that might help us.
If he didn't have opposable thumbs? Well, we're looking at just like a predator instead of a intelligent being.
Yeah.
And so with the predator, with grizzly, with gorilla strength and razor sharp claws, we would just be doomed.
Oh gosh. So especially if Dwayne was
he would be our only savior.
Dwayne Johnson.
Like we need the Rock to come in on his helicopter
and jump out of the skyscraper. Oh, wait, sorry, that's the wrong Rock movie. Wait, no, he has to surf the title. Wait, no, still that's the wrong movie.
he has to Baywatch it.
Oh,
no.
Man, he's been in a lot of movies recently.
Yeah, none of them that great, but we still love you, Dwayne. We still love you. I love every one of your movies. They're not good movies. I'm sorry, but they are entertaining movies.
I'm just excited because I'm hoping that soon, seeing that, as a social studies teacher, we've already seen multiple reality TV stars putting their hats in the ring. President The Rock.
Hey, and Vice President Tom Hanks.
There we go.
Yeah, there we go. That's the one thing everybody can agree on.
We're settled. We are settled.
But what was the next controversial topic we were going to possibly play around with? So,
yes, now that we have had some nice, serious conversation, we have a very important question that is apocalyptic in its nature, and that is, would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
I would definitely have to go with 100 duck-sized horses.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I would hate to see a monster duck like that. I know, you can duck hunt, you can kill ducks, but still, that would be something of just fear and whatnot. And then,
besides,
it's a horse-sized duck, you can keep it like a pet.
The feather. Oh, you mean the duck-sized horse?
Yeah.
Yeah, the horse-sized duck would eat your face.
Yeah.
It would just snap
the horse-sized
your head
duck would eat your face, but the duck-sized horse, it would be like my dog, who I almost brought to school, because I was like, screw it. No one else is here. It would just be me and Norman in the teacher's lounge. She can eat whatever's on the floor.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, some of this is old. This is old stuff.
That should be fine.
But the interesting thing to me is those of you who are duck hunters and you've actually cleaned a duck, that feathering is actually thick for the size of the bird. So you upscale that by a genuine 200 times, and that would be enough feathering that you couldn't actually hit the duck. You would shoot, and it would simply stop the bullets.
This is the famous Reddit AMA question that they would always ask during the early days of AMA. And the thing I'm curious, did anybody ever actually say they'd rather fight a horse-sized duck?
I don't know. I guess maybe if somebody was just really, really like they truly believe themselves to be like a duck whisperer, they could just talk to it, get that call out, and just and have conversation, take it home.
There's a student that just popped in mind, but I'm not going to say
Yeah,
that.
we will pass on the names, but there's several students actually. One of them came dressed as a duck communicator.
Exactly, that was who I was thinking.
Yes, we know. You know who we're talking about.
Anyway.
But the laws prevent us from giving any specific shout-outs.
Yes, we respect FERPA.
Yes, FERPA.
Anyway, what was our... the question I was going to pose to the audience before we had our side jack. And this is kind of a perfect time to jump into maybe suggestions and whatnot. The question I have for you, the podcast listening audience, all of you students on YouTube, whenever you're listening to me and Mr. Norman, which side are we sitting on? Now, of course, we're in the same room, so we're actually sitting on one side and the other, and we know this, but we're not going to tell them.
Yes.
But while you're listening to us, which side do we sit on? Which side do I sit on? Which side does Mr. Norman sit on?
So we are
either you're on the left
either side of
or
a
the
computer.
right.
And we won't tell you which side. I will tell you, however, that every time that excuse me, I'm hacking, coughing again. That every time that Mr. Davidson, leans down towards the computer, then I have to dodge the dripping overflow of Fanta from his 10-gallon hat because he still hasn't taken it off. So if you come in the teacher's lounge and you see some sticky stuff on the table, it's Fanta, and it's his fault.
That or chicken and dumplings.
You have that in there too?
Oh gosh, that was literally what was on this table for the last 2 days was chicken and dumplings.
Well, it's either Fanta or chicken and dumplings.
But no, I got that from a podcast I listened to. I forget if it was Hello Internet or Cortex, but CPT Gray,
yes.
YouTube guy. It's his podcast, and one of the things that them and their podcasting audience had was which side do they sit on? Is it left ear or right ear?
Yeah, we have had several requests for us to turn this into a video experience, but I have informed students that we have these headsets on, and it just wouldn't really be conducive. But on top of that, we don't want to give away all of the hats that are stacked up in the corner of this room.
I know
they go back in the TARDIS during the day, but
they're going to be so
impressive.
You would be so depressed to see that during class I'm not teaching with my beret. Which I guess fine. I'll take off my 10-gallon hat and I will put on my beret.
Yeah. So he's back to beret. I'm not dodging anything. And
you're gonna dodge this French bread.
Oh gosh. So I don't really have to dodge French bread.
Theater of the mind.
You guys know. Well, never mind. I'll save the French jokes for a whole other episode. Put that in the suggestion box if you want to hear Norman talk about the French. No offense if a French person is listening, but we know that you will retreat from the comment section very quickly. So, the kind of final thought, I actually had this. Sorry to wrap this back around to this point, but the final thought that I had on the whole size of the duck is I as a child had a traumatic experience in which I was attacked by geese. No, excuse me, by swans. As a 4-year-old, and it's a wonderful video that I will never release. But of being attacked by a swan, and it just reminded me the other day when this was brought up in class, actually, this same conversation, how violent ducks can be. That we have all these things running around that we're like, oh, this is cute, and we shoot them and do all this stuff, but we never think of them as a genuine threat. But if they were actually your size, as the swan was when I was a 3/4-year-old, it's horrifying because that swan was taller than I was, and so just think of by a neck and a head. But just think of that duckbill coming downhill at you. Just a terrifying thought. Once again, you can do your mind theater.
I mean, think about it like an ostrich. An ostrich is a terrifying looking thing.
Well, yeah, but picture an ostrich with a head the size of like a fridge. Because if we're making this thing the size of a horse, I'm picturing like
It's not, the head won't be that big.
We're looking at a fridge right now, by the way.
It's not that big.
Okay, well, it'd be the size of the freezer.
The head would be like the size of a football. If it's the size of a horse.
We're scaling this differently.
What horse are you thinking of? Are you
No,
thinking
I'm-
of like a Clyde? Even a Clydesdale is not the size of a fridge.
I'm thinking of Knickers the cow. Have you seen Knickers the cow?
Yes.
So,
yes.
if you guys don't know who Knickers the cow is, you need to go look up Knickers the steer.
That could pivot into our next topic that we could possibly do, which is memes. We thought about talking about memes, but we just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, once again, hit us up if you want memes.
One meme that I want to talk about. You know who Andy Reid is, right?
Absolutely.
Andy Reid, the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, when he was younger, he lived in L.A., and he was during the halftime of a Monday Night Football game. When he was 12, he got on national television and was able to demonstrate how far he can throw a ball with all the other Pee Wee kids. But he's 12. Andy Reid was a big boy when he was 12. In fact, he was twice the size, very much like the cow,
yes,
compared to everybody else. And after, of course, that became viral on Twitter after they showed that. And then, of course, the cow became viral, and someone took the cow and Andy Reid and put them side by side, and it was a thing of beauty. And I was like, yes, that's exactly what is going on.
So if you want to make your day better, it's probably not gotten better from listening to our podcast, but go look up Knickers the cow. Knickers the steer.
I don't know. Right now, today is Tuesday when we're recording this. I probably won't be able to post this tomorrow, so I'll probably wait until y'all are on the bus going over to Beta to post it. That way you can get 30 minutes of respite before you get
and then the tidal wave of why I'm wrong. By the way, just so you're reminded, I am fully on the side. Water is wet. Come at me.
Same here.
And clearly, gorilla would win the fight. Come at me. And I would much, much rather fight all of the duck-sized horses because I could punt those suckers. So there is my firm stand on those issues. Like I said, feel free to debate me all day, Beta folks.
All right, I think that might do it for this episode.
Sorry if we seemed a little bit out of sorts. It's just because we kept having to dodge those gigantic hats. And so
I'm not apologizing.
Okay, well, he's not apologizing because
in fact, I'm taking off the beret, 10-gallon hat.
Oh
back
gosh,
on
if you can, it's everywhere. But anyway, I will now have to go get all of this Fanta off of me. But we thank you for joining us on another episode of Two Dumb White Guys. I have been and hopefully will be Scott Norman.
And I'm Paul Davidson. Good night. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, please come on our show.